This is Mike Quinlan, and you are listening to the Business Owner Transition Podcast. There is one constant in business, and that is that every one of us will eventually exit, and sometimes sooner than we think. In this podcast, we discuss topics to help you with elite preparation, so when you're ready for transition, you won't just exit, you will join that exclusive group of owners who have accomplished an elite exit. We talk with former owners, exit advisors, and a host of other experts to help you increase the value of your exit, execute it on your terms, and most importantly, do it without regret. So, let's join the show. Hi, it's Mike Quinlan, and welcome back to the Business Owner Transition Podcast. And as always, we are going to talk about elite preparation and the quest for the elusive elite exit. So let me ask you a question. Do you think it would be hard to give up your seat to create transferable value in your company? Well, let's kind of think about it from another point of view. How would you like to be the person that's coming in to fill that seat? And you as the owner, are you going to treat that person as a hired gun or as a long-term collaborator and learn from their leadership skills? How easily can you grow to trust this person, and how easily will they be able to learn to trust you? Today, we're going to be talking with a leader who moved to Georgia from Maryland to become the new president and general manager of a large manufacturing company with the understanding that the company would be sold in the next couple of years. But before we get started, I want to remind you about some of the resources we have at the Business Owner Transition Academy. These resources can help you gain a better understanding of your exit readiness. So go to the website, theowneracademy.com, and you'll find 3 awesome tools that you can use today. The first one of those is a white paper on the top 10 deal pitfalls. And you can get that for an immediate download. Just enter in your name and email address and it'll pop right to you. You can also take our business wellness checkup assessment. It takes only about 15 minutes and provides you immediate feedback on high-level personal and business value driver readiness. You can also access our spring valuation assessment campaign. And that's something kind of cool because for a limited amount of time, we are going to do some of these assessments for free. So just go to the courses page, select the valuation assessment course, hit the buy now button, and enter this coupon code. The coupon code is Spring Valuation 2022. And you'll be directed to our evaluation portal and be able to start entering the required information and actually see your value change on the fly as you input the data. Afterwards, one of our staff can review that with you if you'd like and give you a full assessment report. Okay, so we're going to tell you about one last thing, and that is if you would like to sample our courseware for free, you can go ahead to the courses page, click on the free introductory course, and that's going to give you the introductory module for you to go ahead and work on and actually even take a test at the end of it. So it's a great introduction to the cohort learning centers that we have at the Business Owner Transition Academy. All right, so let's get started. My guest today is CX Kennedy. CX is an Academy grad and has an MBA from the University of Maryland. CX retired from the Navy, having held senior leadership positions, and as a civilian, he has had multiple senior management roles and moved down from Maryland to Georgia to take over this company. Now, here's a secret. I've known CX for 30-something years. We flew airplanes together as young junior officers in a squadron all over the North Atlantic and Mediterranean and South America and all kinds of crazy places and had a great time doing it. So, CX, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. It's great to be here. I'm glad you didn't get into too many of the stories of, our Liberty times as we were flying all over the place. But we known each other. And I was trying to think when you said 30 plus, I was like, man, 32, 33, somewhere around there. But yeah, as young as we look, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at your picture right now. I don't think you look that young.
Right.
So, hey, listen. So, all right, this is a kind of a cool story. And this client was a client of mine, and he called me after he had a transaction that didn't kind of go the way that he wanted it to go, and asked me to do some consulting work with him and help him build some value in the business and get it ready for transition. The interesting thing was that the business, it was a great business. It's a wonderful business. He just needed to take care of a few things. And one of those things was he needed to start being able to separate his identity from that of the business. The business was his elevator speech, and it would be very difficult for him to kind of separate from that. So when I first started working with him, we went through the 5-phase exit planning process and really started looking hard at the I'm Good checklist. The M in the I'm Good checklist is institutionalizing management. So I made a bunch of recommendations, and one of those recommendations was that he get out of the seat. He couldn't be the president and general manager anymore, not if he didn't want to have to stay around after he sold his business. So I recommended that we bring in a new president and general manager. And he said to me, well, Mike, listen, I've really enjoyed working with you. I see what your work ethic is. I kind of feel like I know who you are. And I really want somebody like you to come in and work on this with me. And he said, I know that you're not going to do it because you've got your own great business, but can you find me another senior military guy that can come in and do this? And so I went out there and I went through my network and I went through some other people's networks, and I had a series of 13 or 14 different candidates that could come in and do this. They were from all across the United States. And as we started getting into the interview process, I called CX and I said, hey, listen, I know that you've got something going on up there, but let me tell you what this opportunity is down here. And would you consider at least coming in and talking about it? And CX did talk about it and ultimately came down and took over this company. And that's the setup for the story. So CX, tell us a little bit about how you came down, why you came down, and what were some of your initial considerations so that other owners that are out there listening to this can think about this from the other side of the table, not from their position, but from your position.
Yes. Well, and I do remember that call. And you were describing this business and how the culture was extremely strong, great work ethic. It's very profitable. It's steadily growing. A extremely talented business owner, leader. A lot of it sounded too good to be true. In all honesty, the track record that we have together, I trusted you. And so I said, well, if Mike says that I need to talk to this guy, I need to talk to this guy. I came down and validated everything that you said. You could tell from the very first visit that they had something special going on. Obviously, what was going on special was a direct reflection of the owner. He was employee number one and grew it to where it is now. One of the difficulties was this was his baby. As I was talking to him, I knew that we had shared values. We had similar leadership styles. I did have some concerns that he was going to be able to let go because he put his heart and soul into growing this business, and how hard would it be to let somebody else come in, maybe do things a little bit differently. That was one of the things that weighing on my mind. And then obviously we needed to make sure that it was going to work for both of us.
Yeah, so I remember the interview process. I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in on that and facilitate some of that. How did you think about that interview process? And as it transitioned to documenting your employment, how did that go?
Well, what was really good about the interview, first off, it was interesting to have a guy that knows everything about me sitting right there. The good thing is you could truth check a lot of the things I was saying. What I really enjoyed about this particular interview, we went through the whole resume validation piece. That was very quick. And then we really went back and forth talking about scenarios, how I would handle certain leadership challenges from a value standpoint, what things were important to us. How did we look at employees? How do we look at compensation? What were some of our leadership / management styles? One of the things that really hit me was the fact that we were in alignment on a lot of things, which was very important, because what we eventually ended up doing over the next few years required us to be in alignment. I mean, it was very important to me. In hindsight, it was very important to the owner as well, because that's a strong foundation to build the trust that's required. Now, you had asked also about how we structured the package, I guess is a better way to put it. Clearly, there was a minimum that I was willing to leave a very good job and leave Maryland to come to Georgia. That was fairly easy to get to. But the other thing was, I didn't want to be an experiment. I wanted to ensure that the business owner was as committed to this relationship as I was. So we put some things into place to where we were joined at the hip. He showed that he was as invested in making this thing work as I was. So that was very important. I mean, obviously you knew both of us. Having you as a part of that helped facilitate and make that conversation flow fairly quickly.
Yeah, it was good. We prepared for you to come in, and it was good that I obviously knew you and I knew him. We talked about some of the technical things. What were some of the questions that were going towards the I'm good checklist, and what you might do to help increase the value of the company, increase the probability that it was going to sell on the terms that the owner was looking for, and then so that he also didn't have that kind of regret piece. So that part of it wasn't that hard. Now, I will say that most business owners are not good at interviewing employees, right? So having somebody that is kind of on the outside help prepare to do that. The rest of the interview was exactly what he was good at. He was good at being able to put you at ease and to being able to kind of read you, and you were good at being able to try to read him. So what I would say here is that from a interview perspective, one of the things that we might recommend to an owner who's going to make a big leap like this is that they get some help with the structure of the interview and the technical portion of the interview, but then let them do the rest. Would you agree with that?
100%. I could not agree more. I mean, let's face it. In this type of environment, it's just as important for me to feel good about coming and working with and for this individual as it is for the owner to hire me and vice versa. I thought the way the interview was structured and the way the interview went, I got a tremendous sense of who he was and what was important to him, what his value sets were. And I know he got a good sense for that as well. And as you probably remember, there were some very candid questions, some of them which may not be on the HR to-do list, but they were good. And I think it was very good that we got to a true sense of each other. And, obviously you don't get to know each other extremely well in a 2-hour period, but I got to know enough that I was willing to take the risk of doing this.
Yeah. Now, would you have taken that risk if there had not been a formal employment agreement that
Absolutely
also
not.
Included? Absolutely not.
No.
But we also structured your agreement to have a sale bonus that was attached to the employment agreement, and then also some protections for you since you were moving your family from from a long ways away. And
Well, I mean, just let me jump in real quick. And the way you're saying it is protect, we're not, I'm not looking that, that there not be any risk. I mean, obviously he is risking, investing time and money into me, and I need to be as willing to risk as well. But again, like I said earlier, I didn't want to be an experiment. There needed to be a sense that he was committed.
yeah, absolutely. So the next thing that we might suggest is that you as an owner listening to this, if you're thinking about making a hire at this level, that don't be afraid, and please make sure you expect to create a formal employment agreement with this new executive. It puts everybody on the same playing field. Everybody knows what the measurables are as you target that exit number. So I think that it's important to do that. But let's skip ahead now. So we get you to Atlanta. Everything's cool. You're going to move into the seat. Tell me about the challenges of taking over that seat in this new industry, because this is a new industry for you. Although you had manufacturing and industrial experience before, how was this challenge?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a challenge. We've had the leadership experience, not only from the military, but also from business. And we've overcome many challenges. But this is a completely new context. So in these types of environments, you need to understand, all the various aspects, the manufacturing, the sales, the logistics, the vendors, customers, all of those things, all play a part, a very important part in running a successful business. And you need to understand the nuances of that particular context. And again, it doesn't happen. You just can't blink your eyes and study the book and master that in just a few short months. It takes a while. So yeah. I just had to be committed to that process of hitting the deck running, as we say in the Navy, and learning all the important aspects, and quite frankly, the leaders in your company, all of our supervisors, our controller, our directors of marketing and logistics, and all those types of things. So it's a extended process.
Yeah. So there's a couple of observations there. One is that you have to start early. This isn't a thing that you can do where you're going to institutionalize management and do it 6 months prior to your go date. This is a couple years ahead. The next observation, I think, of where your comments there are, it took you time to build context around how the business was operating and what all the contacts, external and internal, really were. And all the while you were thinking about the I'm Good checklist and creating value and all of the various elements of the I'm Good checklist and how they are attributable to increasing value for the owner. So what were some of the challenges or observations that you had that you thought, man, okay, as I get to know this stuff, here are some things that we need to implement or to change or to challenge ourselves on?
First, the biggest thing for me was our sales program. Our owner came from the industry, grew up in the industry, had a extremely strong depth of knowledge of who is who in the entire industry. I wouldn't say that we had a necessarily strong sales department, and we didn't necessarily have a plan. It was in his head. He knew exactly what we wanted to do, which markets we wanted to attack, but it wasn't necessarily written down, and it wasn't formalized into a pipeline, and it wasn't necessarily being reflected in a forecast as well. To our owner's credit, he knew that, and then obviously that was one of the first things that we tackled.
As I worked with him prior to you getting there and went through all these different recommendations, it was nice because now there was somebody that was really motivated and energized to take these recommendations and start moving forward with it. So here are a couple of observations for the owners out there. One is that you were in a knowledge transfer situation. The owner was downloading his accumulated knowledge from 40 years of running this company to you. I was in a meeting yesterday where I was working with a company, a smaller company than yours, and the owner has about a 36-month timeline. He's got senior managers there, and I met with the owner and his senior management team to talk about a management improvement program and what knowledge gaps there were between the owner and the senior management team so that they could run the company after he was gone. You were going through that process as well. The second thing I will say is that you touched on growth plan. We encourage all of our owners to document the growth plan and tie that growth plan to pro forma financial statements years in advance. So 5-year pro forma that takes into account the current growth plan and also anticipated growth plans that they can't execute now because they don't have the human capital or the financial capital or just the wherewithal to do it, right? But we want to make sure that they tell the next potential buyer what they have on their mind and how much money could actually be realized from it. So was that one of the things that you ultimately implemented with these guys?
Oh, absolutely. We had to put together, obviously, what are we doing for the next 6 months? Your tactical, and what are we doing for the next year, the next 3, and the next 5? And what is our focus going to be? Which market, which product mixes? We did a gap analysis. Okay, where do we want to be 2 years from now? What products do we have? All the products that are available to support that? Do we have the machinery? Do we have the employees? Do we have that the technical expertise? All of those things. But in essence, we're a business about selling product, right? So how we are going to sell that product and how we are going to penetrate markets and gain new customers and keep our customers happy is extremely critical. And having that in-depth knowledge of those customers. I spent, my first year was spent on the road, going and meeting our customers, going to see who their customers were, how our product was used, and, just developing, not having that first level of knowledge. I needed to have the second and third level knowledge of our customers. And then that helped immensely as far as growing our whole portfolio. That trust, that the owner and I had to have, we had to have that same level of trust with our customers as well.
So as you're going through all this building and understanding and implementing, you also went through the Business Owner Transition Academy. You sat through the cohort and you got the training to hear about all of the things that we discussed to help maximize value so that the owner could leave on their terms and do it without regret. How did that training help you? You already had the roadmap because I had built it for this company, but how did that training help you implement and gain better understanding around preparation for a third-party sale?
It helps you focus. Like, for example, when you go through the business transition, as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, there's a gap. Okay. We're doing some of that, or we're looking at it, but we didn't have, maybe it implemented in a formal way. When we were in the Navy, what did we say? If it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. Right. So same thing with these plans. You got to write it down. You got to put it together. And then demonstrate that, that we didn't just build this business by accident. But more importantly, and this is one of the things I always say, effort is always worth it. Trying to improve yourself is always worth it. In reality, a lot of the things that, not a lot, all of the aspects that we went through in the the academy helps you run your business. And even if you don't sell your business is going to be better off as a result, because what it's doing, all those things are sharpening and honing your ability to better run your company, and then demonstrate you planned something, you did something, then you adjusted, and then you planned and the old OODA loop thing,
That's right.
And again, it's all about improving your company, improving your bottom line. How's that a bad thing?
That's right. Well, so let's just move forward a little bit more now. So when I am working with companies, and you somewhat took a large part of the role that I do as you get towards the transaction piece, right? And what I've always found is that business owners tend to be lonely. And what I mean by that is that you may be the patriarch of your family, you may be the owner of the business, and it's hard to have a peer level discussion with some of your management team. Sometimes it takes somebody from the outside that you can just talk to for a while to discuss potential plans, or to discuss kind of how you feel about what's going on with employees or with the business itself. How did that work for you? Did you get some of that as you were working with the owner?
100%. The owner in this company, it's, again, you had said this earlier, in that this is a process. Starting 3 years out, the process is important. Clearly, he hired me because he thought I had the knowledge, skills, and abilities to take this company to the next level, but then also help in transitioning. But as we ended up, like you called it, a knowledge transition. And there was a lot of that going on at the very beginning. As we were working back and forth, we developed a really fun relationship. We got to, kind of joke with each other and pick on each other a little bit. And, he did share with me, he's like, look, I never had anybody really to talk to about these things, just to throw things back and forth. And we would talk about a lot of things, not just business, but we'd talk about life and, hey, what did you think about this? How did you handle that situation? And, we were able to, I'll tell you, I learned a ton. I believe he did as well, in a lot of ways. As we sold the business and then transitioned it to the buyers, as we were both exiting, as one of those things, like, hey, I enjoyed it. I said it, and he's enjoyed the process, enjoyed the ride. We still keep in touch, and, I consider him a friend. And matter of fact, he was busting my chops pretty good today. But it's fun. Why go through a day without having fun? I mean, you can be professional, you can get your job done, but you can have a little bit of enjoyment. And we did have a lot of fun.
Let's move even farther forward now a little bit. And the whole design of this plan was for you to come in and sit the seat. You went in, you learned about it, you guys gained trust in each other, you had a great friendly relationship. He now had somebody that he could talk to. And I remember through this whole evolution, it was funny talking to you, because initially there was tons and tons of contact, right? I mean, you guys were tied at the hip. And then all of a sudden, he was taking a lot more time up at the lake house and on the golf course. And I knew that at that point that he had generated that trust in you and was letting you run the business. So he was pulling farther apart. He's now developing his new identity for post-life. And you're really now in the thick of running this business. As you started going through the M&A process, and your team is doing due diligence with the buyer, and somebody is having to do presentations with this new buyer. Was that primarily you, or how involved was he? It should have been you.
Well,
right?
As you know, we know who we're talking about. He's always involved. but yeah, the whole goal always, and he's said it too, was for me to be able to be the face of how our business runs, and then also it wasn't that, it was for me to develop a team as well. Our plant manager, our director of sales and marketing, our ops director, controller, all of those things. I had to develop that relationship, and obviously how we all worked as a team. But as far as absolutely, you had said earlier that it takes a while. Well, it doesn't take long for me to be able, if somebody would ask me a question about the business, to talk about, give them the first level answer. But to get into those in-depth conversations of, okay, well, why did you decide to develop this particular product, or why did you go forward and really push to grow this particular customer over another, or this particular market over another? You can't speak with any conviction about any of those, how the quite business, how is this business run, without the owner letting you do it. And you know what, he'd let me make the decisions, and he'd say, I wouldn't do it that way. You can go ahead and do it if that's what you think is right, which was great. And as would take him a while to get to that point, but we did, especially over the last year and a half. It was fun. I mean, it was very rewarding for me, for him too. We could have those in-depth conversations about why we want to do something. It wasn't me in receive only mode. It was actually a discussion on how we're going to attack this particular issue.
Well, I will tell you that it was fun to watch and fun to be part of, because you were the catalyst that allowed for him to move forward. You, by having an outside party come in, challenge him, create that trust, become that peer, it allowed him to move on. And it also allowed his business to become much more valuable. So that was a really cool thing to watch during this journey. Now, the next question would be, what was your biggest challenge? And then would you do this all over again? Are you looking for another one of these things to do?
My biggest challenge was gaining that trust. It's multi-level. I mean, it's not just, you just can't master one piece of the business. You have to demonstrate that you understand the business. So, in regard, the biggest challenge was, and as I alluded to earlier, was getting the sales piece of it focused, because obviously, that's where you're going to expend a lot of your energy. That's where you're going to expend your production, capacity. That was a challenge. Would I do it again? I would. If you'd asked me maybe the first year that I was doing, I might add a different answer. But no, I would, that'd be something, because it ends up, when you work hard for something, me and owner and I worked together as a team. And it was rewarding that, he got what he wanted out of it. And I did as well. I remember that big handshake and hug, after it was all over, and it was very rewarding. I'll miss all the conversations. We'd have some drinks and talk, solve not only the business problem, but solve all the world's problems. But I'll definitely miss that. But no, yeah, I'd if the right opportunity arose, yeah, I'm still young enough, I guess. So.
Yeah. So all of you guys listening out there and gals listening out there, you just give me a call and I will set you up with a great leader that can help you transition your company. Now, CX, we could talk for hours about all the technical stuff that you did there with regard to the I'm Good checklist. And, I'm Good checklist is increasing cash flow and documenting that cash flow. M is for management, institutionalizing management. G is for growth plan and documenting the growth plan. The first O is for optimizing financial statements, which I know you did a lot of work in that area on this particular case. The second is documenting operations, and which is very difficult, especially in a business like yours, because you've got hard manufacturing operations, but then you've got all the other stuff, right? You got supply chain management, you've got vendor management, you've got work with your retirement plan and in compliance with safety and ERISA and all of these different areas that need to be documented so that a buyer understands what they have.
Just as interested in all those things as well. Absolutely.
That's right. And they're going to be asking you for that information during due diligence. And if you don't have it, then first of all, it becomes very painful. Secondly, they start dinging you on the price
throws up red flags. Absolutely.
They don't know why you don't have it. That's right. And so the last one is customer base, diversifying customer base. Out of all of those things, we can talk about that, and it can take a long time. We could do a whole series on that. But what would you say if you're going to talk to these owners out there, what would your 3 biggest takeaways be for them to know how to hire effectively somebody like you, and then how to integrate and use those talents effectively over the time it takes to actually get to the closing table?
First off, you want to hire a leader, somebody and you and I both know how important the leadership aspect of it is, and then has a background to do what you're going to want them to do, and then have that conversation to where you get to really know the person that you're going to be working with. I mean, you're going to be spending, this owner is going to be spending a ton of time together. And if it's not a fit, not only from, the technical aspect, but a personality piece, it's not going to work. And then when you do decide, pull the trigger, commit, and stick with it. I know there were times I was questioning, did I really make the right call? I'm sure the owner at the beginning did the same thing, but we were committed and we worked through. So, and just understand that there is a time aspect of it. You just can't blink and make all these things happen.
Yeah. So I think that what you just said was the technical stuff is, as we talked about in the interview, that's the easy stuff, right? Those are the things that I can help facilitate those right questions to do. But the fit, the personality fit, the ability to work those long hours and be able to be frustrated with each other and not go crazy is really important. The next thing, I think, so fit would be the first one. The next one would be the commitment to actually making it work, understanding that there's going to be bumps in the road, and you have 2 different leadership styles and certainly leadership backgrounds that you have to learn and grow to respect so that you can be effective.
100%.
And then the third piece of that would be the time piece. This is not an easy button issue. If you need somebody to come in short term, 6 months prior to an exit, you can call in a troubleshooter. The troubleshooter may be able to help you talk with your investment banking people or talk with your business broker, but they're not going to be able to go deep in terms of creating a ton of additional value like you were able to do in this case.
And I remember, when we were when we were talking B, when we were, with the owner, it was from the very get-go. It was, hey guys, this is a 3 to 5 year commitment. This is a 3 to 5 year plan. And guess what? It was 3 to 5 years. Again, I believe, from my perspective and from what the owner has said to me, it was a very well spent 3 to 5 years. And it was worth the time. It was worth the effort. And again, even if we didn't sell it, we were a very strong company. And our owner got to improve his handicap.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hopefully now you're going to go improve your handicap a little bit. And remember, you're giving me strokes when we play next because you're able to do that.
Right.
Well, listen, CX, I appreciate it. And as always, it's great talking with you. Unfortunately, you had to be on the phone and we're not hoisting a cold one together. but next time we will do that. So
we got to make it happen.
That's right. That's
Again,
right.
It's a commitment, right?
There you go. Well, listen, I appreciate it. And for all of you listening out there, thank you for joining me today on the Business Owner Transition Podcast. Remember to go to the webpage, the Business Owner Transition Academy, which is at theowneracademy.com. And that's, again, theowneracademy.com. You can find out more information about what we do with businesses, either through the education piece of our business or through the consulting piece of our business as well. And hey, we might even introduce you to some knuckleheads like CX Kennedy. So thanks again, and we look forward to talking to you next time.